Hello and welcome to the Wellbeing Wanderer Podcast. I'm your host, Kat Burdett, wellbeing coach, eternal nomad, and self-love enthusiast. Come join me on a journey as I deep dive into what it really takes to achieve that happy, content state of being. The goal of this show is to bring you those feel-good vibes, expand your learning, and encourage your own personal growth so that you can discover what well-being means for you. I'll be exploring every and any genre, including health, mindset, spirituality, and much more. So get ready for a juicy, mind-opening, raw, and real experience where no topic is off limits. I hope this helps you to feel good. Hello, and welcome back to the Wellbeing Wanderer Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is my absolute honor and pleasure to have you here with me. If this is your first time listening to the show, then welcome. And this is actually the very first solo video episode that I've ever recorded. As you can see, I've gone for a fancy new backdrop and I've got this fancy new microphone, and I'm just really happy to be able to bring video content to you as opposed to just audio. I think it just conveys so much more when you can actually see the person. Now, if you haven't already done so, then please do subscribe to the show. It would mean the world to me. And I'm really trying to get the show to grow organically without any marketing. I want it to really flow. And if you want to help me do that, then all you have to do is take 2 seconds to subscribe, hit the follow button, and to leave me a star rating. Perhaps you could just share it with one other person, someone who you feel might need help with their well-being, then that would be absolutely fantastic. This show is designed to help everybody with their well-being, and I really hope that it gives you value and that this episode really resonates with you. Now, on to today's episode. Have you ever been stuck in a constant loop of overthinking, of anxiety, of worry, where you feel like just you can't get out of your own head and you feel sick to your stomach? Well, you're not alone. In fact, I used to be one of those people. And today's episode is going to explore all about anxiety, worry, and overthinking, and give you some helpful tips and tools to overcome this. And I'd like to start by sharing a little bit about my personal journey. If you're a regular listener of the show, then you will know that I used to be somebody, as I just said, who had severe chronic anxiety. And I used to constantly be in my head. I was overthinking all the time. I was worried about if I said something stupid in front of someone. I would worry about the fear of judgment from others. And it was quite a miserable place to be. And then also after maybe a conversation with somebody, I used to go away overanalyzing it, going, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. What must they think of me? Was that the right thing to say? And I was just so stuck in my own head. And all this continued right through to the age of 36. I didn't actually feel comfortable in my own skin until that age. So as you can see, I've been working on this a really long time. And it really is a passion of mine to help people overcome their anxiety and learn that it's okay to be themselves and to speak their truth. And this, I feel, is such an important piece to our well-being puzzle. Because if you are chronically anxious and overthinking and worrying, it massively impacts your day. It massively impacts everything you do. The confidence to just go outside, the conversations that you have with other people, your ability to perform your job, everything. It literally affects everything. And it's kind of like being this prisoner inside of your own mind. So it is massive. It is really big. And having had a lot of conversations with friends and colleagues, it occurred to me that this is something that most people have going on, and they just don't talk about it. They just deal with it on their own. And some of them, like I used to, go into a hole, think that they're broken, think that there's something wrong with them. And let me tell you right now, there is nothing wrong with you at all. So let's take a look firstly at the worrier mindset. What is that and what does it mean? When we worry, when we feel anxious, we are worrying about usually something in the future that hasn't even happened. We're building up scenarios in our head of how it may be, or we're focused on the past and we're focused on a past event and we're ruminating on it, going over and over and over it in our own minds. Now, of course, it's okay to be thinking about the future and reflecting on the past. That's healthy. Where it becomes unhealthy is when we keep going over it, when we overanalyze and we're unable to let that thought go. Now, the reason that we do this is because we are trying to protect ourselves. It's a learned behavior. It's part of our conditioning, part of our experience. We've learned that this is what is needed in order to survive, in order to get us through the day. And so it really is a behavioral trait that has come from your past. And it's a survival mechanism. It's just your ego, your brain trying to protect you. That's really, really all it is. And that's your brain's primary function, is to keep you alive. So that's why it's something that relates to a lack of safety. There's something inside of you that's saying, this is not safe. And I don't trust myself. I don't feel safe within myself about this. I'm not going to be able to handle this situation if it arises. And you go into this panic mode. Sometimes I used to go into panic modes about it. So it's coming from this lack of safety, this lack of trust in yourself that you are going to be able to handle that situation should it arise. And what happens is we tend to stay stuck in this cycle of anxiety. We get triggered. We have a thought about that trigger. That then triggers an emotion. That emotion creates a reaction, and then that reaction becomes reinforced. So it's like it repeats over and over again. And your body and your nervous system goes into fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? It goes into survival mode. So at that point, you get stuck. You can't get out of it because your brain is saying, I got to survive right now. And so it actually shuts down all the rational thoughts in your mind so that you can survive. And this is very primitive, but this is what happens to everybody. And so it's almost like you can't escape it. Underneath all of that, behind the scenes, you have all these subconscious thoughts going on, telling you that you're not safe. And that is what you feel in those situations. So it doesn't really matter what kind of situation it is. But if it's a situation that triggers you, then you're going to go into this nervous system response, this fight, flight, or freeze. And you're not going to be able to think clearly and rationally and calm yourself down. But the good news is that you're not stuck. You're not broken. In fact, you're a bit like a computer. This is just a program that's running in the background. It doesn't mean it's always going to stay that way. And you can actually reprogram and rewire your mindset so that you don't get triggered. So how do we do that? What do we actually have to do to prevent us getting triggered Or indeed, if we're triggered in the moment, get us to a place where we don't go into that fight, flight, or freeze response. What does it take to stop being the worrier and become the warrior? Let's dive into that one. This is juicy. So, the first thing, like anything that you ever want to change in your life, the first thing is to bring consciousness to it, bring that awareness to it. Notice and be mindful of when you are being triggered. What's going on? How do you feel? What does the trigger feel like within your body? What's the voice in your head telling you at that point? And the mistake a lot of people make is they associate that when they feel an emotion and a thought, that is them, that is who they are. And actually, it's really helpful to disassociate from that. So you want to feel it, you want to have the awareness around it. But what you want to do is you want to disassociate from it. So you want to accept that it's there, welcome it there. And then what is really helpful is if you name that thought or emotion, it helps it to dissolve. So for example, if you say, I'm feeling really anxious right now, you'll notice that it starts to fade once you actually name it, because you're creating that awareness around it. And you can also think to yourself, you know, this thought, this emotion is just a messenger. It's moving through me. It's not a part of me. It doesn't define who I am. It's just a thought. And so that's the first thing that can be really powerful in changing things, bringing that awareness to the situation, to your thoughts, to the sensations in your body, just so you become familiar with what is happening and that little bit more mindful about what is happening. Now, if you are triggered, it is going to throw your nervous system out of regulation. You're going to become dysregulated. So the next really powerful thing to do is to aim to recenter and calm your nervous system down. So there are lots of tools and practices that I could share with you about this. But one of the most simple ones is just tuning into your breath, tuning into the present moment. And a really good technique is the 4-7-8 breathing. So you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, and then you slowly breathe out for 8. And you repeat that 3 times. Now, this isn't just a mental thing, it's actually physiological, because what that does is that tells your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve runs all the way through your body, connects your brain to your gut, to everywhere else, right down the middle of you. And so when you can do your breathing, it sends a signal to you, the vagus nerve, to your brain, that connects to the rest of your body, because of course, remember, we're not just our mind, we're our body too, and everything's connected. One affects the other. So when you do that, it sends that signal that you are calm, that you are safe. Our bodies are always trying to keep us safe. Our bodies and minds are always trying to keep us safe. So you generate that signal, that program, that thought, when you do that breathing technique. I remember I tried to teach this to a few people I work with, and they just thought it was woo-woo nonsense. But it actually does have a physiological effect within your body. So it's really powerful. Another thing that you could try is grounding into the present moment. And if you have the option to and the availability at the time, I recommend taking your shoes off and putting your feet on the earth. Maybe you live near the beach like me. Go and having a walk on the sand, grounding into the earth, and starting to notice your surroundings and be present. What can you see? What can you feel? What can you hear? What can you smell? Really ground into what is happening right now. Because when we're in the present moment, we are not focused on the past. We are not thinking about the future. And actually, all we have is right now. Think about that. All we have is right now. So that future is uncertain, is unwritten. It may not even happen. You don't know what's going to happen from one second to the next. Anything could happen. And that past has already been and gone. It's gone. It's never going to change. You can't change it. You can't get it back. You can't redo it. You don't get a second chance. It's gone. So why hold on to that past? The present moment brings you back to yourself, helps you regain that peace and that calmness. And it makes you realize that it really is the most precious place that we can be in. Another really powerful practice you can do is to start reframing your thoughts. So you cannot change your first thoughts, but you can change your second. So let's say you have a troubling thought about whatever you're experiencing. Turn that into a positive. So, for example, I can't do this. You could change to, I can do this. And it can really be as simple as that. Reframing the way that you're looking at things. Another really helpful tip is to remind yourself that this is just a moment and it will pass. This moment is fleeting. This feeling, this sensation, this anxiety, this person, this situation, whatever it is fleeting. It's a part of your journey. Nothing ever stays the same. And you're going to be out of it soon. And this is also where you can bring the breathing back in as well. And just take those nice, slow, deep breaths in and out. Because it's going to pass, okay? It's not going to stay the same. So I always say to myself, if I'm triggered or I'm feeling unsafe and unsettled, this too shall pass. This is just a moment. And soon it's going to be gone. It's going to be history. And then I'm going to come back to the present again. And that moment, person, situation is gone. It's never coming back. So that's something I find incredibly powerful. And another thought that I often have is that to zoom out and just think to yourself, well, I have this human life on planet Earth. I am one of trillions of billions of trillions of people and organisms and life forms living my life here. And I'm floating on a rock in space in a blackness of infinity. Really? How significant is this situation, is this moment? I find that helpful. And another thing is, I know it might sound a bit silly, but I tell myself, well, I'm going to die one day, and all I have is right now. All I have now is to explore this experience on Earth as a human. So I'm just gonna focus on that. And it's almost like stepping outside of yourself in a way, leaving your ego at the door and just doing what feels aligned and right for you. So remember that this comes from a lack of trust within yourself. You don't trust yourself to handle that situation if it arises. And it's also highlighting, therefore, that there's a lack of love there for yourself as well. Because if you really loved and trusted yourself, then you wouldn't be feeling this way. So it's about learning how to reconnect with yourself and give yourself that unconditional love. And a way that you can do that is to celebrate your wins, to keep boosting yourself up. So every time, even the smallest little win, if you say, like, for example, when I used to have chronic anxiety and I was like, okay, I'm going to meet a group of people now. How am I feeling about this? I'm feeling really, really nervous about this. I get really bad social anxiety. What if I say the wrong thing? And so, well, one thing as well I should have said is I tell myself, what's the worst that can happen? I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die from this experience. I'm going to be all right. Somebody might say something that makes you feel uncomfortable. I might say something that makes you feel uncomfortable, but that's it. And so what I do is I give myself a little stretch goal each time. So you don't want to give yourself a task where it's too much because you'll go right back into the panic zone. But you just want to stretch yourself a little bit. So for example, when I was going to meet a group of people, like at school or whatever, and I was feeling anxious, I just used to say, okay, I'm only going to say one thing. It was really this bad for me. I'm just going to speak once. That's it. That's all the task I'm going to set myself. I'm just going to try and speak once, because even that was hugely intimidating for me. I still remember that feeling, that dread of like, oh my God. And I used to think about what I was going to say, and I used to plan it in my head and build it up and build it up and build it up. And then out it came. And then you know what I found? That when I did it, it was fine. And it really wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And I survived. Yay, go me. And so I used to then celebrate myself and say, I'm amazing. I did that. I'm incredible. I'm so powerful. I'm so strong. And then you do it again and you do it again and you keep repeating until eventually you stretch yourself a little bit more each time, a little bit more each time, a little bit more, until it becomes second nature, until it becomes comfortable. And so that is an amazing thing to do. It's like feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Because on the other side of fear, it's never as bad as you imagined. And in fact, all it does is build your confidence. So once you keep repeatedly facing your fears, it makes you incredibly resilient, incredibly strong. And you understand that fear is just a concept in your mind that isn't really real. And what's on the other side of it is a lot of peace and a lot of calm. Another big one on building self-trust is to take a look at yourself, at your subconscious, do the inner child work. Because inside of all of that, underneath it all, there is just a child version of you that feels unsafe, that feels scared, and that just wants love and wants protection. So it's about learning how to give that to yourself. And if you go back and you journal on, you know, what it was like as a child in your childhood, what did you need? What were you lacking? What was it that made you feel unsafe? What was it that caused you to not trust yourself? What were the examples and experiences that happened around you that made you create that belief? And it's significant to say that that belief is just through your childlike eyes. And if you never unpack that and take it apart and look at it again, you carry that through with you into adulthood. And so it's always there. But it's just a belief. It's not the truth. And you can rewire that. And now you can see it through the lens of an adult. With all your experience, you can reflect back and look at that in a completely different way. And you can reframe it. And so that's an incredibly empowering practice, and something that I do with my coaching clients is we go back and we look at why we are the way we are. And then we get to understand it. And then within that, we reassure our inner child. And it's okay to give yourself a hug. Actually, every morning I look in the mirror. This is a self-love practice I do. I hug myself and I say, Kat, I love you. You're doing amazing. And I kiss myself like this. I don't care. No one's looking at me, are they? So you want to create that safety for yourself. Like, how can you give that love to yourself? What does your inner child need? And then give it to them. When you have this deeper understanding of yourself, you are now more in control of your subconscious rather than it ruling you. And it's going to create so much more safety for you, because sometimes this lack of trust comes from just purely a lack of understanding ourselves. It's like anything. There's always fear, isn't there? When we don't know or understand something, like, for example, my radiotherapy patients that come to have their CT scan to plan their treatment, they don't know what to expect. There's a lot of fear around that. But after they've had it, they're like, oh, it wasn't that bad, actually. It was actually quite straightforward. It's this fear of the unknown. And it's just the same for yourself. It's just the same when you don't know yourself, when you don't understand yourself, there's a gap there in your knowledge. And it creates this fear and this unsafety. And I would say to you guys, don't be afraid to pull out a journal, write down all your thoughts, go back, analyze your habits. When was the first time that you did this? What was going on at the time? Get out all the feelings and try to journal on what your thoughts were at the time. And, what purpose did they serve back then? What were you trying to do? You were probably just trying to protect yourself as a child. You were probably just trying to stay safe. So it's really powerful to journal on this stuff. It's helped me massively. And I also have found that self-love affirmations every morning in the mirror, like I said, can be very powerful too. To remind yourself that you're a badass, that you can handle any situation, that people like you. That's one of mine. People like me. People love hearing what I have to say. I hope so. You're listening to this podcast. So create, I'd say, about 10 self-love affirmations. Look yourself in the mirror every morning. Takes just a couple of minutes. And say them out loud to yourself. Look yourself in the eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul. And that is a part of you. So look yourself in the eyes. Tell yourself you love yourself. And even if it feels a bit icky and a bit weird, it doesn't matter. Because if you do that every day for at least 21 days, it may take a bit longer, but you will start to believe it. Because words have power, words have energy. And that energy is going straight into your subconscious. You are building the neurosynaptic pathways as you do that. You are strengthening those bands. And you are making that belief more tangible. And I touched on this briefly earlier, but mostly it's just about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. It's about taking those little micro actions. Nothing will change if nothing changes. If you keep repeating the same thing and expecting things to change, it won't. The way we change is by taking different actions. That's how you move forward. That's how you grow. And we've been conditioned in our structural society that, everything has to be happy and fun all the time. We can't look at anything negative. And that it's all easy, right? Everything should be easy to us. But that really doesn't serve us, because that is just bringing us into our comfort zone. And the growth happens in the discomfort. It's about understanding that it's okay to be uncomfortable. In fact, being uncomfortable isn't a bad thing. We label it as a bad thing, but it's not. When you're uncomfortable, you're growing. So remember that. If you feel discomfort right now, maybe this is triggering you a lot as well, just hearing me talk. But if you feel that discomfort right now, know that you're growing then. Know that you're changing. And that's amazing. So it's about getting used to being uncomfortable. And that's literally what I did. I pushed myself, probably too much in some respects, nearly went into the panic zone, but I pushed myself. I kept making myself uncomfortable. I didn't know I was coaching myself at the time. I was just looking for a way out. And I thought, you know what? I just need to get myself used to this. And so I kept putting myself in those social situations with the people that made me feel very small and uncomfortable. And I just went for it. So it's about having that courage to just go for it. And I can't remember which thought leader talks about this. Is it the wonderful Mel Robbins? Maybe. But it's just about stopping yourself from overthinking and overanalyzing through taking action and through doing it quickly. So if you're faced with something that you find scary, it's about just going for it. If you think about it too much, you're going to talk yourself out of it. So if you can just go 3, 2, 1, go. And I used to call it the fuck it attitude. I used to be like, fuck it, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It's like I stopped caring about all those little micro possibilities and situations. And I was just like, fuck it, let's just do it. And it worked. And then I just kept doing that. So yeah, it really makes such a massive difference. So take the action rather than overanalyze. If you're starting to overanalyze, just quick, do it. Go for it. Go. Just get it done. And I guarantee you that once you do it, you'll be like, oh, that really wasn't so bad. And I'm still alive. You're not going to die. You're going to be fine. You've got this. And I want to leave you with this really important reminder, and to just hear these words from me, that if you're a worrier and you don't feel like a warrior right now, it doesn't matter. It's just where you're at. Don't blame, shame, or judge yourself. It doesn't make you weak. All that's saying is that you care. It's just showing that you care. It's actually highlighting that you're a really beautiful person because you care. So please, please remember that. Don't beat yourself up. Know that you're not broken. Know that it's just your programming. It's just your ego trying to protect you, your brain keeping you alive, trying to create that safety. That is all it is. And you're not broken. That feels complete. I really hope that this episode helped you. I hope that's brought you some clarity and some value, because I really do know what this is like. I really do. I battled with it for 36 years. I'm 42 now. And it took me that long to actually feel safe in my body, to feel like my words, my thoughts, and my whole being was valuable. And it took me that long, and it takes as long as it takes. But I was able to take that objective look at myself without judgment and start taking the action and all the things I spoke about, and rewiring my mindset, focusing on my wins, and giving myself that unconditional love. Creating that safety for my inner child. feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I got there, and you can too. So it is my tradition on this show to leave you with a quote. And right before I do that quote, I just want to say thank you so much for spending your time here with me today. If you have enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who you feel it might help. Please do subscribe, follow me. Please leave a 5-star rating if you feel I deserve it. That is, of course. And if you have any questions, you want to connect with me, all my details are in the show notes. It would be my absolute honor and privilege to serve you, to support you in your journey. I am accepting coaching clients at the moment. So if you are someone who is struggling with their anxiety, worry, you're an overthinker, then please do get in contact with me. And so without further ado, here is the final message that I have for you today. Worrying doesn't take away today's troubles. It takes away today's peace. Sending you all so much love. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you shortly. Ciao for now.